My friends, let me ask you a very honest question today. How many of you sometimes feel like there's a weaker version of yourself living inside you? The one who says, let's snooze the alarm for just 10 more minutes. The one who says, I'll start working on my dreams tomorrow. The one who whispers, it's too hard, let's give up. When we talk about recognizing the weak version of ourselves, it is not about pointing fingers at our flaws or judging ourselves harshly. It is about shining a light on those small hidden habits, the tiny compromises, and the whispers of excuses that quietly slow us down in life. The truth is, all of us carry two sides within us, one that is full of strength, clarity, and courage, and another that is lazy, doubtful, and fearful. The problem is not that the weak version exists. The problem is that most of the time, we are not even aware that it is running the show. When we do not recognize it, we keep feeding it unknowingly, and before we realize, days turn into months, and months turn into years, and the best of our potential remains untapped. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I will wake up early tomorrow? But when the alarm rang, the weak version whispered, just 5 more minutes. How many times have you said, I will start exercising, I will start reading, I will start working on my goals? But the weak version convinced you, not today, maybe tomorrow. Each time this happens, we don't just lose a moment, we lose a battle against ourselves. Recognition is the first step. If you don't see the weak version, you cannot separate it from the strong one. Recognition does not mean criticizing yourself. It means becoming mindful of your patterns. For example, imagine a student preparing for exams. Every time he sits with his books, his phone lights up with a notification. The weak version says, check it for just 1 minute. He listens, and 1 minute turns into an hour. Later, he feels guilty. The strong version wanted to focus, but the weak version stole the moment. Now, the point here is not to hate yourself for being distracted, but to recognize that the weak version operates in small whispers, in tiny temptations, in soft excuses. When you learn to recognize it, you start becoming more powerful. Because the moment you hear that inner whisper, you can smile and say, I see you. You are trying to stop me again. Awareness creates choice. Without awareness, the weak version acts like an invisible master. With awareness, you become the master of your choices. Recognition also requires honesty. Many times we lie to ourselves. We say, I don't have time, but in reality we spend hours scrolling. We say, I will do it when I feel motivated, but motivation is not the issue, discipline is. Honesty means removing the mask. For example, if you are not exercising, it is not because you cannot, but because you are choosing comfort over effort. That is the weak version at work. When you call it out honestly, you start breaking its power. You see, life gives us daily mirrors to recognize the weak version. When you feel regret at night for not doing what you promised yourself in the morning, that regret is a mirror. When you see someone else progressing while you are stuck in the same place, that is a mirror. When you feel restless deep inside because you know you are capable of more, but you are not doing it, that is the clearest mirror. These are not punishments. These are reminders that the weak version has taken charge, and it's time for you to recognize it and reclaim control. A beautiful example can be taken from everyday health. Imagine a person who eats junk food regularly. At first, he feels pleasure. The weak version tells him, just one more bite. Enjoy today. Health can wait. But later, when he sees his energy dropping, his body slowing down, and his health reports showing problems, he suddenly realizes, I allowed the weak version to dominate my choices. Recognition here is painful, but it is powerful. Because once you see it clearly, you cannot deny it anymore. You are forced to make a decision, either continue feeding the weak version or begin the journey of change. The weak version is clever. It doesn't appear with big excuses. It hides in small habits. That is why many people don't even realize they are living under its control. Recognition is like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see the dust, the clutter, the things you were ignoring. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but only when you see it can you clean it. Similarly, only when you see the weak version can you work on strengthening the powerful one. One of the best ways to recognize it is by asking yourself daily, is this decision taking me closer to the person I want to be or keeping me stuck where I am? If it's the latter, then the weak version is speaking. For example, if your dream is to start a business, but you keep saying, I'll wait for the right time, you must ask, is this truly wisdom? Or is this the weak version masking fear with the excuse of waiting? Recognition comes when you dare to question your own thoughts. Remember, the weak version is not evil. It is just comfortable. It wants pleasure now, not progress later. But life is not about temporary comfort. It is about long-term fulfillment. The moment you recognize this, you stop being angry at yourself and start being alert. You start catching the weak version in action. Each time you catch it, you weaken it. Each time you choose differently, you strengthen your higher self. So, recognition is the foundation of transformation. Without recognizing the weak version, we cannot grow. With recognition, even before we act, we already win half the battle. It's like driving a car. If you don't see the speed breaker ahead, you will trip. But if you see it in advance, you slow down and cross safely. Similarly, when you recognize the weak version whispering in your ear, you can choose to ignore it and continue moving strongly toward your purpose. Therefore, don't run away from the weak version. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Look at it clearly, accept that it is part of you, but also decide that it will not control you. Every day, when you recognize it and rise above it, you are already killing it slowly and step by step. You will watch yourself evolve into the strongest version you were always meant to be. Feeding the stronger self is not about building an image of perfection. It is about consciously choosing every single day the thoughts, actions, and habits that help us rise above mediocrity. The stronger self inside us is like a seed. It has immense potential, but whether it grows into a mighty tree or remains buried in the soil depends entirely on how we nurture it. Most people do not realize that both the weak self and the strong self are constantly being fed. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you feed the weak version. Every time you choose discipline over laziness, you feed the stronger version. The power lies in your daily choices. Think about a person who sets an alarm for 5 a.m. The weak self whispers, sleep is more important. You deserve rest. The stronger self whispers, get up. This is your chance to take control of your day. If you decide to snooze the alarm, you feed the weak version. But if you get up and push yourself to move, you feed the strong version. The more you feed it, the more natural it becomes to rise early, the more your body and mind align with your purpose. Slowly, waking up early stops feeling like torture and starts feeling like power. This is the simple truth. What you repeatedly do becomes your nature. Let us take another example from the workplace. Imagine someone who always delays tasks until the last minute. The weak self convinces them you work best under pressure. But the reality is that procrastination creates stress and reduces quality. The stronger self says, start early, do it in parts, and stay ahead. The moment you listen to the stronger self, you break the cycle of stress. You begin to experience the calm of being prepared. The weak self will always find creative excuses, but every time you choose responsibility over procrastination, you are feeding strength. Feeding the strong self is not only about grand actions, it is also about small, invisible choices that nobody notices. For example, choosing water instead of soda, choosing to read for 15 minutes instead of mindlessly scrolling, choosing to spend time with uplifting people instead of those who drag your energy down. These may seem small, but they are like drops of water filling a jar. One day the jar overflows, and you realize how much strength you have built simply by feeding the right version of yourself. Discipline is the real food of the stronger self. A disciplined person is not someone who enjoys sacrifice, but someone who understands that long-term joy is more valuable than short-term pleasure. Picture a student who avoids parties for a while to prepare for exams. His weak self tells him, enjoy now, life is short. But his strong self reminds him, invest now, and you will enjoy life with greater freedom later. When the results come, when he secures the career he dreamed of, he realizes that feeding his stronger self was never a loss. It was the best investment of his time. The same principle applies in relationships. The weak self reacts with anger when a loved one makes a mistake. It says, shout, blame, prove you are right. But the strong self whispers, pause, understand, forgive. Every time you choose kindness over ego, patience over irritation, you feed the stronger self. Over time, relationships become healthier because you are not giving power to the weakness of anger, but to the strength of compassion. Feeding the stronger self is also about consistency. Many people start something with enthusiasm, but stop when the excitement fades. The weak self says, it's boring now, why continue? But the strong self says, do it anyway, because results are born from consistency, not mood. Think about going to the gym. The first week, motivation is high. By the third week, excuses begins. It's raining, I'm tired, I'll go tomorrow. Those who listen to the weak self soon quit. But those who listen to the strong self, even when they don't feel like it, end up transforming their health and energy. The difference is not talent, it is which self they are feeding daily. Even spiritually, feeding the stronger self matters. The weak version drowns in negative thoughts, comparing, complaining, and criticizing. The strong version practices gratitude, reflection, and faith. When you wake up and say, why is my life so hard? You feed weakness. But when you wake up and say, thank you for another day to grow, you feed strength. Gratitude shifts your focus from problems to possibilities, and suddenly your energy changes. Life is like a garden. If you water weeds, they grow. If you water flowers, they grow. The weak version is like weeds. It grows automatically if you don't pay attention. The strong version is like flowers. It needs deliberate care, sunlight, and water. The question is, what are you watering daily? Because that will determine what fills your life tomorrow. Feeding the stronger self requires awareness, discipline, and patience. It is not about perfection, it is about progress. Even if you fall into weakness occasionally, don't stay there. Pick yourself up and feed your strength again. Over time, the strong self becomes your default nature. You become the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but executes, who doesn't just wish but works, who doesn't just survive but thrives. And remember, nobody else can feed your stronger self for you. People can inspire you, guide you, or motivate you, but at the end of the day, you are the one who chooses whether to feed the weak version or the strong one. Every moment is a meal. What are you feeding on? Excuses or discipline, laziness or effort, fear or courage? The choice is yours, and your life will always reflect the choices you make. Small daily wins matter more than we often realize. Many people think that success is about achieving something big all at once, like starting a business, writing a book, or transforming their health overnight. But the truth is, no great achievement is born in a single day. It is built brick by brick, habit by habit, small win by small win. The problem is that we underestimate these small victories, and because they don't look dramatic, we ignore them. Yet, over time, these small wins become the foundation of greatness. Think about it. If you drink one glass of soda today, nothing major will happen. If you skip one workout today, it seems harmless. If you waste 1 hour scrolling on your phone, you don't see the damage immediately. But if this small choice is repeated daily, it becomes a habit. Slowly, it shapes the direction of your life. The weak self always says, "It's just one time. It doesn't matter." But the stronger self knows that small daily wins are what separates success from stagnation. Let's take an example from fitness. Imagine someone who decides to start walking for just 15 minutes every day. At first, it doesn't look like much. There are no visible changes in a week or even a month. The weak self might laugh and say, "What's the use? It's too little." But the stronger self keeps going. After 6 months, this person notices increased energy, better mood, and gradual weight loss. A year later, the habit of 15 minutes a day has transformed into a healthier body and sharper mind. What seemed insignificant in the beginning turned into a life-changing result. The same applies in studies. A student who reads 2 pages of a book every day might think it's too small to matter. But after a year, that's over 700 pages, the size of a big novel or several subject books. Slowly, without pressure, the student has developed knowledge and the discipline of consistent learning. Compare that to another student who waits for the perfect day to study for hours but never starts. The difference is clear. Small wins compound, but waiting for big wins keeps you stuck. Even in personal growth, small daily wins are magical. Let's say you want to be a kinder person. You don't need to donate $1 million to charity or make a grand gesture. Start by offering one genuine compliment every day, by listening carefully to someone when they speak, or by practicing patience in a traffic jam. These may feel tiny, but over time they shape your character. People will begin to notice a calmness and positivity in you, not because of one grand action, but because of consistent small wins that have become your second nature. Consider professional life too. If you write just 300 words a day, in a year you will have written over 100,000 words, the size of a full book. If you make one business call every day, in a year you have spoken to 365 potential clients. If you save just a small amount of money daily, it can turn into a substantial fund in the long run. The beauty of small daily wins is that they compound silently, like interest in a bank account. And one day the results are so big that people around you call it luck. But it was never luck. It was the silent power of daily victories. What's beautiful about small wins is that they also build confidence. When you achieve something small, your mind says, I can do this. That confidence encourages you to take the next step and then the next. Imagine someone who has a fear of public speaking. If they try to deliver a 1-hour speech right away, they might fail and give up. But if they start by speaking 2 minutes in front of a small group, that small win builds courage. Then they move to 5 minutes, then 10, and eventually they can speak for an hour with ease. The journey from fear to confidence is paved with small, consistent wins. Another important thing is that small wins break the trap of perfection. Many people never start because they wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect mood. But success doesn't wait for perfection, it rewards action. A small step today is always more powerful than a big plan for tomorrow. When you take a small action, you defeat procrastination, and that itself is a win. Even if you fail in a small attempt, the loss is minor, but the learning is priceless. And each small step makes the bigger goal less intimidating. Look at relationships again. If you want to build trust with someone, it doesn't happen by one dramatic promise. It happens through daily gestures, showing up on time, keeping your word, listening when they speak, checking in when they're down. These are small wins, but over time they build unshakable trust. On the other hand, neglecting these small gestures creates cracks, and no big apology later can fully heal what daily care could have prevented. Even spirituality is about small wins. Saying a short prayer, practicing gratitude for one thing every day, or spending 5 minutes in silence can look simple. But these small actions accumulate into a deeper sense of peace and connection. You don't need to retreat to a mountain to find clarity. You need to build it through consistent, daily wins in the middle of ordinary life. So, never underestimate the power of the small. The big achievements you admire in others are only the visible tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies years of daily victories, invisible to the world, but powerful in shaping destiny. The weak version of yourself will always mock small steps, saying, "This won't make a difference." But the strong version knows that every drop counts, and over time, drops create an ocean. Therefore, celebrate your small daily wins. Don't dismiss them. If you woke up when the alarm rang, that's a win. If you chose fruit over junk food, that's a win. If you read for 10 minutes instead of scrolling, that's a win. Collect these wins like treasures, and one day, you'll look back and realize that these tiny choices were the reason you transformed your life. Greatness is never built in a day, it is built daily. Don't fight with anger, grow with wisdom. These words hold a depth that can change the way we deal with our own weaknesses. Often, when we notice laziness in ourselves, or procrastination, or fear, we immediately respond with anger. We say, "Why am I like this? Why can't I change? Why am I so weak?" That anger does not solve the problem. It only drains more energy and makes us feel even worse. Real growth happens not when we fight weakness with harshness, but when we replace it with wisdom, with understanding, and with deliberate, thoughtful actions. Imagine a gardener who notices weeds growing in his garden. If he becomes angry and shouts at the weeds, will they disappear? Of course not. If he curses the soil or blames the rain, will the weeds stop growing? No, the weeds will only go when he carefully removes them and plants flowers in their place. The same is true with our weak habits. Anger at yourself will not remove them. Only wisdom and conscious action can replace them with strength. For example, think about someone who struggles with procrastination. They delay their work and then get angry at themselves for being lazy. But anger does not push them forward. It usually makes them feel guilty and stuck. Instead, wisdom would say, break the task into smaller parts. Do just 10 minutes now. That's simple. Wise action changes everything. Instead of fighting yourself with harshness, you gently guide yourself with intelligence. Slowly, procrastination loses its grip, not because of anger, but because of wisdom. Another example is in relationships. Suppose you lose your temper with a friend or family member. Afterwards, the weak version of you feels guilt and shame, and you begin to say, "I'm a terrible person. I always ruin things." That anger toward yourself only increases distance and pain. But wisdom whispers, pause, learn. Next time, when you feel anger rising, breathe deeply, step away, and respond calmly. That wise approach doesn't erase the mistake, but it prevents the same mistake from repeating. Wisdom transforms weakness into strength. We can also see this truth in physical health. Many people overeat and then become angry at themselves. Why did I do this again? I have no control. That anger leads to shame, and shame often leads to more unhealthy eating. But wisdom takes a different approach. Wisdom says, I overate today, but I can make a better choice at my next meal. I can drink water, I can go for a short walk, I can learn to eat slowly next time. Instead of punishing yourself, you educate yourself. Slowly, wisdom builds healthier patterns that anger could never create. It is the same with fear. When you feel afraid to take a step toward your dream, the weak version of you criticizes. Why are you so cowardly? Everyone else is brave. Why not you? That anger only deepens fear. But wisdom says, courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite fear. Take one small step today. And when you take that small step, your courage grows. It was wisdom that nurtured it, not anger. Think of a teacher with a struggling student. If the teacher becomes angry, shouts, and insults the student for not understanding, will the student suddenly become brilliant? No, the student will shrink further in fear. But if the teacher uses wisdom, patience, and guidance, the student slowly learns and improves. You are the teacher of your own life. Will you choose to treat yourself with anger or with wisdom? Wisdom also helps us understand the root of weakness. For instance, if you find yourself scrolling endlessly on social media, anger says, "You're wasting your life." But wisdom asks, What am I really seeking? Am I tired? Am I lonely? Am I avoiding something? When you understand the root, you can replace the habit with something meaningful: rest, conversation, or purposeful work. Anger sees only the symptom. Wisdom heals the cause. Growth through wisdom is gentle but powerful. Anger tries to force sudden change, but wisdom creates lasting transformation. Anger says, "Stop being weak right now," but wisdom says, "Take one step today, another tomorrow, and soon you will be strong." Which approach is sustainable? The gentle, consistent power of wisdom. Life itself gives us countless chances to practice this. Every time we fail, we have two choices: sink into anger or rise with wisdom. Every time we repeat an old mistake, we can either scold ourselves or learn something new. The world is not asking for our perfection, it is asking for our progress. Progress comes from learning, and learning comes from wisdom. Even spiritually, this truth shines. When people meditate, they sometimes feel distracted and then get angry at themselves. Why can't I focus? But that anger only creates more restlessness. Wisdom, however, says, the mind is like a child wandering naturally. Gently bring it back. With patience and understanding, focus improves. So when we say, don't fight with anger, grow with wisdom, we are talking about a completely new relationship with ourselves. Instead of being our own harshest critic, we become our own best guide. Instead of crushing weakness, we outgrow it. Instead of punishing ourselves, we patiently train ourselves. Just as a child learns to walk not by being shouted at, but by being encouraged every time it falls, we also grow not by being angry at our weak version, but by nurturing our stronger one with wisdom. And this is the beauty of life. Wisdom is available to everyone. You don't need to be a saint or a scholar to practice it. All you need is honesty and awareness. Ask yourself, is this anger helping me grow, or is it wisdom I need right now? The answer will always guide you towards strength. So the next time you notice your weakness, whether it is procrastination, fear, laziness, or anger, don't fight it with more anger. Pause, breathe, ask, what can I learn here? What wise step can I take? Then act on that wisdom, however small the step may be. Day by day, you will see that weakness loses its control, and wisdom becomes your natural way of living. That is how real growth happens, not through punishment, but through patience, understanding, and wisdom. Embrace resistance, because it is in resistance that your true strength is revealed. In life, many people run away from obstacles, from struggles, from anything that feels heavy or difficult. We crave comfort, and we think comfort will give us happiness. But the reality is, growth never happens in comfort. It happens in challenge, in pressure, in resistance. Just as a seed has to break through the hard soil to become a plant, just as a bird has to push against the eggshell to be born, we too have to embrace the resistance in our lives if we want to grow into our fullest potential. Think about the gym. When someone lifts weights, they are literally pushing against resistance. The weight feels heavy, the muscles burn, and it is uncomfortable. But that very resistance is what makes the muscles grow. If you lift nothing, your muscles stay weak. If you lift heavy, your muscles tear and rebuild stronger. In the same way, the challenges you face in life are not punishments. They are weights designed to strengthen your character. Each time you push against them, you grow. Without resistance, you remain the same. With resistance, you transform. In studies too, resistance is a gift. Imagine a student preparing for an exam. If every question was easy, the student would never stretch their mind, never truly learn. It is the difficult questions, the confusing chapters, the late nights of study that force the brain to grow. At first, resistance feels frustrating. You think, why is this so hard? Why can't it be easier? But when you finally understand, when you master the subject, the joy is much deeper precisely because the resistance was greater. The harder the climb, the sweeter the view. Even in relationships, resistance teaches us. Every relationship faces disagreements, differences, and misunderstandings. Many people see these as problems and try to avoid them. But if you embrace them wisely, they become opportunities to deepen trust and strengthen bonds. For example, when two friends disagree, the weak version of the self may want to walk away, thinking, this is too hard. But if you embrace the resistance, you learn patience, communication, and compromise. Slowly, the bond becomes stronger than it ever could have without those challenges. Just as a rope becomes tighter when pulled from both ends, relationships become stronger when they survive resistance. Embracing resistance also applies to emotional struggles. Think about fear, anxiety, or sadness. Most people want to run away from these emotions, to numb them with distractions. But those who embrace resistance sit with their emotions, learn from them, and grow through them. For instance, someone afraid of public speaking might avoid every chance to speak. But another person, though nervous, says yes to small opportunities. Each time the resistance feels strong, the heart races, the palms sweat. But with every experience, the fear reduces and confidence grows. If you never face resistance, you never outgrow fear. Nature itself teaches us this lesson. Look at how rivers carve valleys through solid rock, not by avoiding resistance, but by flowing against it with persistence. Look at how a kite flies, not because the wind pushes it forward, but because the resistance of the wind against the string lifts it higher. Without resistance, the kite would simply fall. Similarly, your life is lifted higher by the winds of resistance you are willing to face. It is also important to remember that resistance is a sign you are moving in the right direction. If everything feels too easy, maybe you are not challenging yourself enough. A runner who never sweats, a student who never struggles, a professional who never faces setbacks, these are signs not of success, but of stagnation. Growth always leaves behind some discomfort. That is why people say, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. But embracing resistance does not mean you must enjoy pain. It means you must respect it. When you face a difficult project at work, instead of saying, why me? This is unfair, you can say, this is my gym. This is where I grow stronger. When you experience failure, instead of saying, I am not good enough, you can say, this resistance is training me to be wiser, sharper, and more resilient. This mindset shift transforms resistance from being an enemy into being your greatest coach. Take the example of Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before successfully inventing the light bulb. Each failure was resistance. If he had given up, the world might have waited decades more for that invention. But he embraced resistance, learned from it, and finally succeeded. His wisdom came not despite resistance, but because of it. On a personal level too, you can see this truth. Imagine you want to save money, but feel tempted to spend every time you see something new. That temptation is resistance. Each time you say no, you are training your discipline muscle. Over time, you gain financial strength. Or when you want to wake up early, but your bed feels irresistibly warm, that pull is resistance. Each time you get up anyway, you are feeding your stronger self. Embracing resistance is also about patience. Growth takes time, just as building muscle takes weeks and months, not one workout. You cannot expect immediate results. But if you remain consistent, if you push against resistance a little every day, one day you will look back and see how far you've come. What once felt impossible will become natural. So the next time life feels heavy, the next time you are tempted to run away from a challenge, remember this: resistance is not here to break you, it is here to build you. It is the weight that strengthens your character, the storm that shapes your courage, the test that reveals your true capacity. Instead of cursing it, embrace it. Instead of avoiding it, lean into it. Because every time you embrace resistance, you are not just surviving, you are evolving into a stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable version of yourself. Choose hard today for an easy tomorrow, because life always collects its dues. If you escape the hard work now, the difficulties will pile up in your future. But if you willingly embrace the hard path today, life rewards you later with ease, peace, and freedom. This is one of the simplest yet most powerful truths about life. Every choice you make either shifts the weight of effort into your present or pushes it into your future. The question is, where do you want to carry the burden? On your shoulders now or on your heart tomorrow? Think about health. It is hard to exercise regularly, to resist junk food, to drink enough water, and to sleep on time. These habits require effort, discipline, and sacrifice. But if you choose this hard path today, your tomorrow becomes easier. You have more energy, fewer medical bills, and a stronger body to enjoy life. On the other hand, if you choose the easy path today, sleeping late, overeating, and avoiding exercise, your tomorrow becomes hard. Illness, fatigue, and regret begin to follow you like shadows. You cannot escape the price, you only decide when to pay it. Education gives another clear example. Studying for exams is not easy. It demands long nights, concentration, and saying no to distractions. That is hard today. But the reward is an easy tomorrow, good grades, better opportunities, and a sense of achievement. If you avoid the hard study and instead choose the easy way of constant entertainment, tomorrow will be hard, poor results, limited choices, and the pain of realizing that comfort today created struggle later. Students who choose hard now eventually live easy later. Those who choose easy now face hard later. It is a universal principle. Even in financial life, this truth is loud and clear. Saving money, budgeting, and living within your means feels hard. You see others spending freely and enjoying luxuries while you are controlling yourself. But years later, when emergencies strike or opportunities arrive, you are ready. Your discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. On the other hand, overspending and living on debt may feel easy now, but the burden of loans, interests, and financial stress tomorrow makes life extremely hard. Again, the bill always arrives. You either pay with discipline today or with regret tomorrow. In relationships too, Choosing the hard thing today makes tomorrow easier. It is hard to apologize, to admit mistakes, to forgive, and to have honest conversations. It takes courage and humility. But when you do it, your relationships become peaceful and deep, and your tomorrow is easier. If you avoid these hard conversations, resentment grows, misunderstandings pile up, and tomorrow becomes harder. A single difficult talk today can save years of silent suffering later. The workplace is no different. It is hard to show up early, to be consistent, to learn new skills, and to push beyond your comfort zone. But when you choose this hard path, you stand out, you grow, and promotions and respect follow you. Tomorrow becomes easier because you invested today. But if you take shortcuts, avoid responsibility, or do only the bare minimum, it feels easy in the moment, but leads to stress, insecurity, and lack of growth tomorrow. Even spiritually, this truth applies. It is hard to sit quietly and meditate when your mind is restless. It is hard to be grateful when problems surround you. It is hard to stay kind when people test your patience. But if you choose this hard path, your heart becomes peaceful, your mind becomes calm, and your spirit becomes strong. Tomorrow's storms feel lighter because you trained yourself today. Avoiding this hard work leaves you vulnerable to every difficulty life throws your way. Consider the small, everyday examples too. Waking up early is hard, sleeping in is easy. But waking early gives you extra hours, clarity, and time to prepare, making the day easy. Sleeping in feels good now, but creates a rushed morning, stress, and wasted potential, making the day hard. Cooking a meal at home is hard, ordering fast food is easy. But cooking saves money and improves health, while fast food eventually makes your body and wallet suffer. Reading a book is hard, watching endless videos is easy, but reading enriches your mind and builds focus, while endless scrolling leaves you restless and empty. Life's design is simple. Effort invested today is freedom gained tomorrow. Comfort chosen today is hardship delivered tomorrow. That is why discipline, though painful in the present, becomes a blessing in the future. And laziness, though sweet in the present, becomes bitter later. When you understand this principle, you stop seeing effort as a punishment. You start seeing it as an investment. You stop resenting the discipline of today and start respecting it because you know it is your ticket to an easier tomorrow. You stop envying those who live easily now because you know ease without effort is borrowed happiness. It comes with a heavy interest later. Think of the farmer. It is hard work to plow the field, sow the seeds, and water the land. The sun is hot, the soil is stubborn, and the body gets tired. That is hard today, but when harvest comes, life becomes easy. Food, income, and security flow in. If the farmer avoids the hard work and chooses ease, tomorrow brings hunger and despair. Every season of life is like farming. Sowing discipline today brings a harvest of ease tomorrow. So, whenever you are tempted to take the easy path, pause and ask yourself, am I making my tomorrow harder by escaping today's struggle? And whenever you feel resistance in doing the right thing, remind yourself this hardness is a gift. It is the very thing that will make my tomorrow smooth. Choosing hard today for an easy tomorrow is not about making life miserable. It is about living wisely. It is about carrying the small weight now so that you don't collapse under a mountain later. It is about trading short-term comfort for long-term joy. The weak version of you will always beg for ease today, but the stronger version knows that real freedom comes when you embrace the hard path now. Because in the end, life always rewards those who are willing to work harder today so that tomorrow becomes lighter, brighter, and more fulfilling. My dear friends, don't just survive as a weaker version of yourself. Rise, evolve, and kill the weak version every single day. Because life is too precious to be lived at half your potential. The world does not need the weaker you, it needs the stronger you, the wiser you, the unstoppable you.